Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Wednesday, July 3rd, and we got a packed show. I know it's July 3rd, but it seems like, Booner, we have a lot of stuff to get to. Red Wings making moves, Lions stuff we need to discuss today. The Doc will be joining us. Mike will be here in a couple of minutes. We'll break down what the Red Wings just did, and making a very significant signing, by the way, Tarasenko, which we'll get to. Well, Boone, how we feeling tomorrow, 4th of July? I hope everyone has a great time tomorrow. I'm not a huge firework guy, if I'm being honest with you, Boone. But I love watching them. I don't mess with no fireworks. I've seen some. I actually had a guy I know blew his hand off with a firework. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Jason Pierre-Paul, you know him?
That's a whole nother thing. But I hope everyone has a safe 4th of July. We won't have a show tomorrow. We'll have content posted all throughout the day. And also, Boone.
Yeah.
We just hit 8,000 subscribers.
Here we go, boys. Come on, put it together. We're growing.
That is big time. 8,000 subscribers. We hit it. Very, very thankful for all you guys trying to hit the 10K by the season. We've been saying it for months, and we're on our way. But, Boone, how are we feeling tonight?
I feel great. 4th of July tomorrow. I am a fireworks guy. I won't have the opportunity to go out, light them off and have fun tomorrow. I'm just going to take a day off and relax. One of the best, I will say this. One of the best 4th of July memories I had in college, one of my last years in college, was, I bring it up all the time, my Australian friends. I got a paycheck in the summer. I spent my whole paycheck. I didn't realize what I was doing. I thought I was walking into a fireworks sale. And I ended up spending like $500 on fireworks at the checkout. It was one of those situations to where you think you're getting a sale and you get all of the things together. And when you get to the register, you're like, they give you the number and you're just like, I can't back out of this now. Like, I'm going to look bad if I say, no, I can't do this. So I just did it. And we had a good night of fireworks. We did get the cops called on us saying, hey, we can't put the fireworks off, but do enjoy. I'm a fireworks guy. I do enjoy lights of fireworks. Juicy J.
I mean, Booner, I would expect nothing else from you.
Thank you.
I mean, that $500 in fireworks, that's
again, it wasn't like I meant to do it. I went to the register, they said it's about $550, and I go,
yeah,
all
that's
right.
Still
the
impressive.
Boys behind me, I can't look around, like I can't embarrass myself here. I'll take this on.
No.
I'm gonna take this bill on.
No, I know, I understand completely. I do.
I feel great though. You know what, too? Honestly, I was shocked today when we were putting prep together and stuff. There's so much stuff to talk about, and like things just keep coming out. It feels like as soon as we think like, oh, it's going to be a slow day or a slow week, it just gets like just more things get piled on, and things keep happening, especially with the Lions too. So I'm pumped for today's show. I have a lot of notes. This here, big note day.
Booner's
big note
notes
day.
Filled up.
I've got notes today.
All right. Well, we'll start off by something that happened about 3 hours ago. And you know what, Booner? Sometimes your prayers just get answered. You know, that's just kind of how it works sometimes. And, I've been trying to find different ways to come up with ideas for at least a player that the Lions will acquire at the deadline, at the edge position specifically. I already went through Hassan Reddick. It was kind of a miss. You know, we talked about it. You told me to do some homework. I brought Matthew Judon the next day. And it just so happens that Matthew Judon tweeted out this GIF, very subliminal. All he put was, I'm a head out. And it's the SpongeBob meme of him getting up and walking out. And we know that Matthew Judon has had contract negotiations with the Patriots. He is up, and he's been very productive. They can't come to an agreement. So, he's done this before. He tweeted out something else probably a couple weeks ago, and this is the next thing he's putting out. I think he's edging closer, him and the Patriots, from splitting up. Now, I'm not doing this to say pay Matthew Judon, but what I am saying is, unless he wants a deal right now, there is that, which the Lions, I'm not saying the Lions should pay him, so maybe they can't agree to that. But if he's looking for a place, especially the place near where he played college football, to come back and compete for a Super Bowl, the Lions are the perfect spot, Booner. Imagine Judon and Aiden Hutchinson. We talk about the amount of havoc that those two alone would cause, and I haven't gotten to Willie McNeil and DJ Reader, even for a rental Booner, he checks the character trait, like high character guy. Guys, teammates love him. He's available. I know he was a little banged up, but that's typically for his career. He's been healthy. He's not just a one-trick pony. He's very good against the run, very physical. I think the Lions would love that. I know Dan especially would love that type of player, veteran. What do you think? What do you make of the Judon stuff? And do you think that my dream of acquiring an edge at this deadline, maybe, just maybe, will come true?
Jeff, honestly, I don't even think it's a deadline situation. I think
Maybe
I think a Matthew Judon situation is something that comes before the season.
Okay.
Think about it. They're going through contract negotiations. As soon as he knows, hey, this isn't going to work out, he's either going to ask out or they're going to find a contract situation. They're going to say, let's extend you for a year or two, or let's figure something out to patch this up. And if neither one, like one of those has to happen. And I think like a Matthew Judon, Jeff, I know you brought him as his homework. This is a guy for, I think, the last year before he even got hurt was someone that I think I brought up. We've all like, this is a guy who has been in Michigan. He went to West Bloomfield High School. This is a local kid who, like, he would, like, if there was a team where he would say, hey, I will do a contract, I will do a 1 or 2 year contract, or I will take a little less money to come back and play for a team that I grew up rooting for and my family grew up rooting for, and I can come back and make an impact and possibly win a Super Bowl there. Like, that's a dream come true for someone like him too, who's already been through, he's already had contracts in the NFL. It's not like this is his first deal. He's been successful in the NFL. He's done his time, and now he's in a position of leverage to where if he wants to go somewhere where he's going to make a ton of money, yeah, he can go do that. And I think he would be like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to go at him for doing that. If he wants to go somewhere that's willing to pay him a ton of money because he wants to keep bringing money in for his family, which great family. I threw it out there before. I do know his brother. So, like, they have a great family. So they deserve all of that money. But I also do know that, like, I'm sure he would consider coming back to Detroit and being like, yeah, I would love to win a Super Bowl somewhere where I grew up playing high school ball 30 minutes away. And then somewhere where a couple hours away, I went to college and played at a D2's college in Grand Valley State. So, like, I don't think it's out of the picture at all for an opportunity for the Detroit Lions to acquire Matthew Judon. Now, what will happen with the trade assets and everything with that, with the Patriots and the Lions? I don't know if that's even been a question or if he's like requested a trade or if that's came up, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happened because, like, Jeff, this man, before he got hurt, so I think it was a collarbone. I think he broke his collarbone last year. That was the first significant injury he's had in his career. He went 6 straight years. I think in 6 seasons, he missed like 2 total games. But he had in 2022, before he got hurt, 15 and a half sacks. And before that, 12 and a half. And before he got hurt last year, he was on track to do that again, and he had 4. So I think this is a guy, like, if you pair him up with Aiden Hutchinson, that is one of the, like, scariest. Like, I think Aiden Hutchinson is the top 5 edge rusher already in the NFL. And a healthy Matthew Judon, you could like, he's a top 20 guy. So you pair him up with those 2 guys together, you have 2 top 20 guys. That defensive line, not even counting the DJ Reader or the Aleem McNeil, like, that's a scary defensive line right there. And now you have the secondary. That's a Super Bowl defense instantly. I don't see, like, if Judon was to request a trade and the Lions were all in on that, I don't see him being like, no, I don't want that.
Well, you got to think, and this is the side that I was thinking about today. Montez Sweat in a contract year went for a 2nd-round pick. Now, Judon's been more productive. So he's a little older, but still more productive last 2 seasons. I don't know what the assets, maybe it's a 2nd, maybe a 3rd. I don't know. But this is what I do know is, and me and Dark Flame agree 110%. You think a Super Bowl appearance would help this man in free agency? I know one thing, sitting with the Patriots and playing out this year and racking up a bunch of sacks on a bad roster, he's still going to get paid. But, man, if you're helping a team win a Super Bowl, reach and win a Super Bowl, and he's productive, and it's going to give him some more motivation. I mean, you think about you're playing for something meaningful, and he's still going to get his money. That's again, I know the NFL, it's not always guaranteed that guys get the exact money they want, but for Judon to come play with the Lions, a place that he's familiar with, a place that he grew up and played for the Lions, a Super Bowl contender, if they make a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl and he's one of their better defensive players, oh my God, he's getting a contract. Like he's
for sure.
Someone. So it's like best of both worlds. You get to compete for a Super Bowl, play where you grew up, and you'll still get paid. I mean, barring a significant injury, which is always I get that's why guys want their contracts. But he's on the last year of his deal. You don't even have to re-sign him, Booner. I'm cool with a rental just to go chase the Super Bowl. It'll be worth it. If you give up a second, third round pick and you win a Super Bowl, you can have a second, third round pick. I mean, I don't. At that point, you got it.
And you do see it as well. And there's all the time players like Matthew Judon, who is very, very respected and high-level players in the NFL, who get to a year 10, a year 11, and they'll sign 2 or 3 year deals. They'll sign shorter-term deals, places where they want to be to try and win. And on top of that, to continue to prove yourself. Like, he's coming off an injury. Yeah, like, it's an injury to where it is a collarbone, I believe. So that's a tough injury. But, like, yeah, he wants to prove himself still and show that he could still go out there and get 15, 12 sacks like he has in the past. Like, I wouldn't be against bringing him in, and if he agrees to a two-year deal and kind of go with that, especially when you're going to pay Hutch in a year or two. Like, you have an opportunity to do that and keep a very good defensive line together for multiple years. Especially, we talked about yesterday on the show the window of the Detroit Lions. I think there's a 5-6 year window, but to your point yesterday, was there a 2-year window where you're at your peak to where you can seriously win right now? Why not add another piece like that? Like, I think that's what Brad has wanted to do. Like, Brad was in the conversation with Danielle Hunter at the trade deadline last year, and it came out that he was talking with the Minnesota Vikings about bringing Danielle Hunter in. If Matthew Judon somehow becomes available, I know for a fact that he's going to be talking to New England Patriots in regards to him too. I think that'd be you have to say yes to that.
I agree 100%. It's something you at least have to pick up the phone and call. And I think Brad will do that. At least just see. I mean, seriously, just at least see what he would go for. I'd see Tyler Judon would be our Kawhi Leonard for the Raptors. I mean, I see Steve too. It's a Super Bowl defense now without Judon. Yeah, but and I get it.
Your biggest weakness, you just added to that.
Solve that. Yeah. I mean, he's better than anyone they have on the defensive line besides Aiden Hutchinson. He just is. He's a guy who's had, 27 sacks, not counting out this past season where he was injured, but the prior 2 seasons. Like, dude, he's a very, very productive player. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. I see someone brought up in the chat that PFF ranked the Lions offensive and defensive line, which we'll get to in a second. I want to give a shout out. Ryan became a Crunch member once again.
Shout out, Ryan.
Appreciate you. Thank you for that. Steve says let's talk some wings tonight. We will. We will be getting to Red Wings. Don't worry. Later after John. So stick around.
Can I make 2? Who was it in the chat? Someone in the chat. Where is he at? Oh, I'm pulling it up. I can't find his comment now.
What was it?
It was Jeff Olson. I believe Jeff tweeted at us because he was asking. I think Jeff's a Bucks fan, and we did the Lions jersey giveaway, and he asked if he does win, if we can get him a different jersey outside of the Lions.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we could agree with that. We can make an exception for Jeff Olson.
Jeff
Olson. That's if he wins, though. We have to do the randomizer.
If he wins, book it. I'll give him a Red Wings jersey. That'll no problem at all. Because I get that. I didn't even think about that, honestly. He is a Bucks, so
he's a loyal supporter. I'll make an exception just for Jeff.
Yeah, no, we got you, Jeff. Jeff to Jeff. Don't worry about it. Well, PFF ranked the Lions' offensive and defensive line, and they did a kind of a position group ranking with offensive line and defensive line. Lions are on this list. Eagles are on this list. Browns and the Jets and Cowboys, which is weird. No. Sorry, Jets. But they acquired Tyron Smith.
Yeah, can you take that bottom part off? I don't know how to do that on my end.
I got it. That tricked me for a second. But you see it. Teams with top 5 offensive lines and defensive lines. Lines are on here. Number 1 offensive line. Not really a debate there. We all agree. And they have the 4th best D-line, according to PFF, which if Lucas was here, woke sports. That's what he would call it. But they are 4. They are 1 spot better than the Cleveland Browns, according to this, and 1 spot behind the Eagles. The Jets being the best, which I don't really disagree with that.
No.
But 4, I was trying to think about this, Boone. I mean, the offensive line, there's nothing to discuss. Like, they're the best offensive line in football. Now 4, if you go Jets 1, I wonder who 2 was. I'm trying to think. Maybe you go
the Texans.
That's where I went with it off the top I think even this comment, ETN with the Giants. I mean, the Giants added Brian Burns and they have Dexter Lawrence.
It's so confusing.
They're up there. But 3 and 4, I mean, or 3 and 5, I think is fair. I don't think the Lions are too high ranked, or excuse me, too much, like too high of ranked. Maybe a couple spots you could drop them, but I think they're top 6, 7. I don't hate
The Lions.
Yeah, 4 to me is a little high in my opinion.
I think 4. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I'm the slappy as people want to call it. I wouldn't even put the Lions defensive line at like 5 or 6. Like, I think I'd put them lower, like 10,
maybe 10. I
don't think. I think just like say obviously, and I think a lot of people have already seen in the chat. Like we're all a Detroit show, and I think you could agree like this isn't the best defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean,
because like typically, like seriously, think about it. I went and got like, all right, let me show you this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, this
so
is a good
the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are the 5th best defensive line according to PFF, correct? And the
Correct.
Detroit Lions have the 4th best defensive line. The Detroit Lions are returning, and I know like the rush defense, I think actually has a big factor to play in this. And I think that's why they put them number 4 is because of the rush defense. That's the only thing I could think of. And their PFF grade in rush defense is so high that brings the whole crew up. But if you're like looking at even getting to the quarterback and like sacks, the Detroit Lions return, how many did I get here? 23 and a half sacks total on their defensive line. And I know obviously we had as a crew, as a team, we had more than that, but that's taking out linebackers, safeties, corners, all of that. Take all of that out. They have 23 and a half total sacks. Shout out Ryan, Hutch, Defensive Player of the Year. That will happen. And then the Browns, they return, and I might have missed some guys on the Browns. Their defensive line is returning 42 plus sacks this season. So you're looking at 42 to 23 and a half.
That's a lot.
Like, I think the Lions do have some guys to prove. Like Marcus Davenport, like as good as we think he can be, like he still has to go out there and prove it and stay healthy.
Yep.
Like you still have guys out there like Levi O. He still has to go out there and prove it. He had 1 sack last year. Josh Pascal had 1 sack. Like you're still relying on a lot of different guys. Now, if you're talking about our top 3 guys, Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reader, and Aleem McNeil, like okay, yeah, maybe we can make an argument who has the best top 3. You could say the Lions are top 5, but I just think as a whole, it's that other side of the line is an issue. And I think looking at outside of Hutch, Aleem McNeil, you have no one on that offense or defensive line that's produced sacks last year. No one.
Yeah, and that's again maybe top 6, top 7. I'm just trying to go through it. So
I got the article here.
Well, real quick, I see just a devil's advocate comment here, or at least someone that disagrees. JT's massive purpose. Name 4 better lines that include their bench. Booner, go compare the number and how deep our bench is. Go watch the video PFF put out, please. I think they have depth.
Watch it.
I think they have depth, but
Yeah.
but that's not what you're saying. It's not the deepest. It's the most talented, the most capable, and let's bring up teams that are on this list. I think the teams that come to mind, in my opinion, immediately, I would go 49ers being one, right? Just right off the rip, what they have. I think another team, the Giants, like I mentioned, I think they have to be considered at least. I mean, Brian Burns, dude. I mean, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau. I think Aiden's better than Kayvon, but still
Pittsburgh
they have
Steelers.
Dexter Lawrence, who's one of the best at his position. Like Aleem is, he's up there, but Dexter's better than Aleem. And then Brian Burns is better than anybody they have on the other side. So that's already 2 more. That's why I said maybe top 6, 7. I don't know.
The Steelers with Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward.
Yeah,
that's a good defensive line.
That's up there too. That's up there too. So
I'm not saying the Lions aren't top 10. Like you can make an argument, especially with their run defense, that this defense line is. It's just more so like I think we can all agree they have more guys on their defensive line that need to prove themselves. Like that Mekhi Wingo, I hope he steps up. He's a guy that hasn't played in the NFL yet. He needs to. Davenport needs to stay healthy. Like there are guys on this defensive line. It's just like you're expecting them to do that. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the players you don't worry about are Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, and DJ Reader when he returns. There's not really, those are like 3 guys you don't really have questions about. Everybody else, you have a question. Like James Houston. Okay, let's see. Is it rookie year, James Houston? Davenport, can he stay healthy? Josh Pascal, is he going to take the next step? Like there's a lot of that. And the guys we just brought up, like Hayward, Highsmith, TJ Watt, no questions. Like, or Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, not really any questions. All three of those guys. So, I think Aiden definitely brings them up a lot. And DJ Reader, very, very good. Lee McNeil. I think them two, if we're going defensive tackle duos, they're up there. That's why I think they're up there. No one's saying they're a bad defensive line. I'm not saying that. I think they got better this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're
Booner, we could revisit this like 7 weeks in, and Davenport's playing really well. And
that's my point.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
My point is, like,
really
you have guys who can play at a high level. Like, I think that's why they're getting ranked fourth. As you have, like, if you rank the interior defensive line, which I'm pretty sure PFF did, the Detroit Lions, I believe, had the number one interior defensive line with DJ Reader and Lee McNeil. So when you look at it that way, that's exactly why. Now it's all clicking for me. That's exactly why PFF has them as a number 4 overall defensive line, because they think the Lions have the number 1 interior defensive line in the entire NFL. And then you add in the Aiden Hutchinson. And then if Marcus Davenport, if you guys remember the top 30 ranked edge rushers in the NFL, they had Aiden Hutchinson, I think, top 5. And then they had Marcus Davenport in the top 30 as well. So they had both of those guys ranked. So these are guys who are highly ranked. But if you're looking at it, like I brought the facts there, like you're returning 23.5 total sacks on your defensive line. 23.5. The Browns, who are behind you in the rankings, are returning over 42 sacks. Like, that is a big difference. And, like, you do need someone to step up. And run game and interior, we already know that's a different demon itself. Like, those dudes, like, we have guys that are on a different level. But when we're talking about getting to the quarterback, and we talk about it all the time, Jeff, the most important thing is, yes, pressures are huge. Getting to the quarterback and creating sacks, that's essentially like getting another stop. Like, that's exactly what you need to do. Even though Dan Campbell says, who cares about it? That's still a piece to this game. And, like, when you look at a team that's bringing back double the amount of sacks than yours, I want to see some guys step up. I want to see, like, I hope Mekhi Wingo works out. Like, imagine if they brought in Matthew Judon. Your defensive line gets that much better. If Levi O works out, or Josh Pascal ends up working out, or the commish steps up, James Houston comes back healthy, that's scary. Like, things can work out in the favor. But I think it's like we just have more so of a question mark on that edge than other teams have kind of already solidified.
Yeah, and I see, JT says in the video, they said even if healthy. They said even they even say if healthy. Yeah, and that's
fair. That's healthy, fair.
Yeah, and I get that. Matthew Batts, I don't know.
Matthew Batts,
according to the people, very good. So
very fine football player.
Yeah. Big M says need to figure out Coach Williams on the ranking. He will definitely make this D-line better. I think development, absolutely. I think
that's huge.
All right, let's transition here, because that kind of relates to what we're going to talk about. And by the way, we will get to Red Wings. We have segments designated right after Doc. Rest of the show is going to be Red Wings. So just hold on. We'll get to it. So don't worry about it. But right now, I do want to transition into where ESPN had the Lions ranked in their top 25 under 25 rosters. So it's under 25, top 25. Or at least, I don't know if it's top 25, but it's under 25 talent. Like teams that have players, great players under 25 years old. Yep. And where do you think the Lions, well, I'll ask the chat, because you probably have already looked. Because last year they were third on this list. Where do you guys think they are this year? Because we know this team, we mentioned it all the time, how young they are, and that helps with the window because of how young they are. And they have great players that are very young. But ESPN had them this upcoming season. I see ones.
I see a lot of ones.
One. ETN
I see a lot of ones.
2. They have them at 2, behind the Houston Texans, who last year was actually 1. This year they are 1 again, which, most of the roster is young. Like the Lions have more experienced guys, especially on their offensive line, and a quarterback. So I'm not really as mad at that. But number 2, the Lions are here. Number 3, real quick, the Baltimore Ravens, and then number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. So Lions are sitting pretty comfortably, in my opinion, at least for a roster under 25. And ESPN writes here, as you can tell by their placement on this list, the Lions aced the top of the past few drafts. We can certainly have some interesting arguments about positional value. With these picks, with the picks that Detroit made, but it's hard to argue with the results. Sewell was a first-team All-Pro last season and is 23 years old. Laporta was also 23 and set an NFL record for catches by a tight end with 86. Gibbs and Brian Branch are just 22, while first-round rookie Taron Arnold is likely to be an NFL starter at 21. The Lions also have several quality players who are 24 this season, led by one of the league's top wide receivers in St. Brown after catching a career-high 119 receptions for 1,515 yards. St. Brown signed a huge contract to keep him in Detroit. Hutchinson led the NFL in pressures and is also 24. So are linebacker Jack Campbell and edge rusher Josh Pascal. And don't forget about the 23-year-old wideout, Jamison Williams, a former first-round pick whom the Lions are counting on to develop and finally reach his potential this season. And they have some blue-chip players here: Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jahmyr Gibbs, who we didn't even actually – they didn't mention in the explanation there.
They left a player out, too, in this whole thing. Ali McNeil, 24 years old.
Ooh.
I don't know how you leave Ali McNeil off of this whole article.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy.
And that speaks to – it's crazy that usually in the NFL, it's a little different like basketball. If you have an all-young roster, a bunch of guys 19, 20, 21, you're not going to win. You're going to lose a lot of games. In the NFL, it's such a balance. It's a bigger roster. So you can kind of balance it out with young players and vets in different positions. Like if you have a veteran at quarterback, a veteran at tackle, which they have Penei Sewell, which is basically a veteran. The dude plays like a 10-year vet. You can kind of get away with these other young players. But no, these young players are just that good, Booner. I mean, they're just that good. It doesn't matter where they play.
The crazy thing is, like in this article too, they have a segment there that basically says key players, notable players that graduated off the top or the under 25 list. And if you go look at every single one of these lists here, every single team has a player that's gone, got older than 25, like an elite player. The Detroit Lions might be one of the only teams on this list that it said none. It just said there are no players that have exceeded this number, and they are all still under 25. And this might be, I know Detroit Supremacy said earlier, and like, are we getting a non-biased Booner in here today? I don't know if this is non-biased or not. I think the Detroit Lions should be number one on this list. And I get the Texans have a great young core. But the thing that you have with this Lions team is you have the Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra, Hutch, Laporta, Gibbs, Aleem McNeil, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Jamison Williams. Like, you have guys. Guess what all of these guys did? All these guys were a part of the team last year that took this team to an NFC Championship game, and they all were contributors. Like, it wasn't like they just were guys like getting random snaps. No, by the end of the season, including Jamison Williams, like they're contributing. Jamison Williams had 2 touchdowns in the NFC Championship game. Like, every single one of these guys are contributors to this football team that is returning, and they're Super Bowl contenders. Like, that's where I think this comes to, like, dude, you literally have your whole core outside of like Jared Goff is on this list, and they're all under 25 years old. Like, I think that's the craziest part.
You know what, Boone? I agree with you. I think they should be higher than the Texans. I'm thinking about it. I think the big reason why they're there is C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. I think those, but anybody else, the Lions can go toe to toe. Like, I even think with Will Anderson and CJ, they can go toe to toe. CJ at quarterback, their quarterback's older, so you can't really go toe to toe there. But in terms of the volume of players that are great and young, you're right. Like Sam Laporta, all pro.
And what they've accomplished already. Like, a lot of these guys are already first team all pros. Like, Laporta's already an all pro tight end. Penei Sewell's already an all pro.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's 24.
Yes, Gibbs this year, you're hoping. And not even just all pro, but like Hutch, Pro Bowler, Gibbs, Pro Bowler. Like, these guys, like, you have just a list that just keeps going of Pro Bowlers and all pro players that are under 25. And guess what? Most of these guys are going to be on this list again next year, maybe outside of Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra. Like, those are the only 2 guys I think that might be close to turning 25 out of this whole list. And everyone else will be on it, including Terrion Arnold now is going to jump up into the top of that list. Like, whoever you draft next year, I'm sure is going to get put on it. I think it's incredible what Brad, like, it's a testament to Brad Holmes, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even the all pros, that has to matter. I mean, Will Anderson won defensive rookie of the year, but he wasn't all pro. CJ Stroud was not all pro. They have multiple all pros for guys under 25.
Yeah.
And that matters. I mean, Penei Sewell is the best, you argue one of the best players in the game, and definitely the best tackle in the game. So, there's that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think volume and pound for pound, even though CJ, he's so good. He's great. But him and Will really put them up there. Like, you could go multiple guys, Penei, Aiden, Amon-Ra, Sam, Brian Branch, JMO, even though JMO hasn't shown exactly his potential yet, you still have to put him in there. I mean, they were talking about Christian Harris on the Texans, which Christian Harris is fine, but like they're mentioning John Mechie, who's barely played. Like if we're gonna mention those guys, like let's be real, Lions.
Did they mention Tank Dell at least? Like
they did.
They did. I was gonna say.
So, but if you're mentioning like John Mechie, no offense to him, but like you can mention JMO. You know?
Dude, and Sammy B just put Panay's only 23, so he's going to be on the list next year. Like you had no one leave this list, right. No key players leave this list on the article. Like you probably won't next year. I think Amon Raj 24 and Aleem McNeil's 24, and they left Aleem McNeil out, which is shocking to itself. This is such a good roster that they built. Like it's crazy that they're not number one, especially after what this team just did.
Yeah, and that should tell you right there when we talk about them being a Super Bowl contender. That's part of the window conversation is the youth. Like that. Yep. Some teams are put together and they have a lot of veterans, older players in their windows. Like, okay, guys, gather up. We're winning a Super Bowl. No offense, but kind of like the Rams, ETN in the chat. I mean, the Rams had Matthew Stafford, who he was getting older. They went all in. They got Von Miller. They had Aaron Donald. They weren't sure of his future. Jalen Ramsey, they acquired him. They were like, we're winning this thing, and they won, which that matters. I mean, they got the Super Bowl, so everything else no one gives a damn about. But the Lions at least have young guys still on rookie deals for the most part. So, you're going to have a couple swings at this thing.
Yep.
So that's honestly the biggest part of this whole entire conversation. It isn't just about where they rank on the list, but what's to come in the future and really what they can turn into. So that's big time. Let's welcome in Michael Gentry here.
Gentry.
Let's get our boy in here. Michael Gentry, welcome to the program. How you doing, my guy?
Beautiful hat.
Oh, thanks, Boone. As always, I'm rocking the hat. But it's been a great day, boys. Obviously, these guys made some moves, so we love it. It's been a great day.
Go.
How are the boys?
Yeah, Stevie. Hey, they were. Some people were trolling Stevie. Made a couple little signings the last couple days, and people were like, "Really? What are we doing here?" And then he drops the bomb. Vladimir Tarasenko just signs him to a 2-year deal. And this is a guy who's in 6 seasons in his career has had 30 plus goals. What are the Red Wings getting in Vladimir Tarasenko? I know he played well in the playoffs last year, but can you go through and talk about what he provides for this team?
Well, obviously, 2-time Stanley Cup champ winner, and he's replacing David Perron in that top 6, and you're obviously going to get way more production out of him offensively, not so much on the defensive side, but to get him 2 years, 4.75, and obviously you dished off Robbie Fabry to make some extra cap for that, and hopefully another move for that right-handed D-man, but man, it's a great move. That's going to benefit in multiple areas. His goal scoring, it's going to add a whole nother level to this team. And then, power play 1, power play 2, wherever they decide to toss him, it's just going to be an extra boost there. So this is kind of the ideal signing that you wanted as a Red Wings fan. You get Tarasenko, a great goal scorer to add to your top 6 on a reasonable contract for 2 years. You didn't have to go out and spend $8 million on Stamkos. You didn't have to go out and overpay anyone else. This was the perfect signing. And as I said the other day, you just have to be patient because, obviously last year, the DeBrincat trade took till July 10th, so 7 days from now. But he had the space and, he was just waiting for the right move. He wasn't going to overpay. He knew that this addition was, the right one for the team. So he went out and got him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Boone, this move, it was worth the wait. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the only thing, and I said this to Gentry the other day when we were talking about the Wings, I just wanted the Wings to just make moves to where this franchise moves forward. You were 1 or 2 games out, and I think honestly, I say it a lot. I do think if Larkin's injury doesn't happen, they probably make the playoffs. But you were 1 or 2 games away from making the playoffs last year, even with the Larkin injury for a little bit. It's dude, all you have to do is just improve a little bit, And you remember all the people what they were saying, the Spit and Chicklets and those guys were if the Wings get in, they can make noise. It's all you have to do is just get in next year and then let whatever happens. And I think that's all this team needs to do is get in the playoffs. And it sounds like Tarasenko is the guy to all right, maybe this puts us over a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree as far as that goes. I think he's a guy that could help. And obviously our offense was kind of slower last year, and we were begging to see those young guys. So when a lot of people were panicking over not signing people, I was like, well, don't you want to see these young prospects come up and get their time? And with a signing like this, you still have your bottom 6 open where you can plug and play some of those guys. And then you obviously have 2 spots on the defensive end for Johansson and Edmondson. So you're still going to get that youth movement that we all wanted, and you still added goal scoring to your top 6. So like the Tarasenko move, I already thought this year you have to make playoffs. Stevie had to go out and make the moves to make this team a playoff team. And I still think there's still some moves to be made. You have 3 goaltenders, and you still need a right-handed shot on the defensive end. So I still think there's still some stuff to happen, but Tarasenko was a huge step forward in your top 6.
Yeah, I mean they signed Tarasenko, and then right after they traded Fabry, and they cleared $4 million in cap space. So you basically signed him for what I think it's like 4.25 for.
I think it was 4.75. I could be wrong.
So then you clear $4 million right after. So I mean, from Steve, his perspective, there's still, like you said, more moves to be made. I see Pistons start with Patrick Kane. Yeah, they played together with the Rangers.
Yes,
for like a year, something like that.
Yeah, and Patrick Kane wasn't fully healthy when he played for the Rangers. So like him we seen what he did last year when, that surgery he had is not an easy surgery for him to come back from. Still was a point per game guy. Now he has a whole off season to keep working at it. And then, he's got training camp with the Wings. So I think, it's going to be a great time for, those two getting back together on the ice healthy. So, yeah.
Are they going to make another massive move? Like, is there another big time player that will get added in a trade, or is it just kind of like now it's just depth?
I would say, I think one of those goaltenders will be offloaded. I just don't see them starting with 3. And Husso's battled so many injuries. Cam Talbot was kind of an insurance signing, and he played very well for the Kings last year. Didn't play so well in the playoffs. But I think no matter what, you have to go add a top 4 right-handed defenseman. You have a lot of guys that you can punch in on the third line as far as your D pairs go, but you need another guy in that that top pair. That would be my thing. A right-handed defenseman. I know there's a couple guys out there, but I don't know if it's going to be via trade, if they have to offload some more cap to kind of get that situation right with whoever they're looking for, but definitely a right-handed defenseman.
What do you think about this comment? Diggity says 9th best offense, 25th best defense. Why is everyone talking about scoring?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent, but I think, the younger forwards will kind of help out that group and balance the offense throughout 4 lines, and then your top 6 got better. So you got to always kind of talk about your offense and the defense. I think, people are kind of sleeping on the Edmondson, the Johanssons a little bit. People were pushing to kind of get these guys in the lineup last year, and now that their time's finally here, we're kind of scared to watch them take that step. But I think those guys will help that. And like I said, they're going to add a right-handed defenseman to go in that top 4 D core, 100%.
Yeah, that I will say it was worth the wait. All right, well, I know we were coming at Stevie a little bit, not in joking matter, but hey, Gentry likes it, we like it. All right, that's fair.
No Stevie by here.
What about Lucas? ETN says, I'm just going to agree with everything Gentry says. What do you think about the deadline, at least the trying to acquire a goalie? I see Ryan mentioned that. Would that be more so a deadline move? Like, okay, let's evaluate goaltending and go out and get someone.
Yeah, it could be a kind of a thing because you kind of maybe work Husso back into things, and then you roll with 3 guys at first and then kind of dish off one of the 3. So that could be an option. I don't know if you're going to dish off a goalie at the deadline, you're going to make a goalie deadline deal, you're going to bring in someone too. So I feel like, I don't know, that's tough. I think if they're going to go get their goalie, they'll probably get him now rather than wait on it and try and, backpedal, and hopefully a goalie falls into their lap at the deadline. I think they want to go out and kind of get that situation secured as soon as possible.
I see the comments about Detroit supremacy and Pistons talk. It's a playoff team, but we do need a little more help on defense. Everson would be nice. Would love to see the Trouba trade happen, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see the Trouba trade happen too, but when deals like that happen, obviously there's a lot of stuff involved with his family. I kind of read a story about that, all the stuff his wife is doing. So it's more than, just him wanting to get traded here. He's leaving actual situation behind in New York, but he's a great player. I think there would have to be a lot of money taken out or retained rather from New York. And you would maybe even have to dish off one of your defensemen, but one of those bottom guys, I'm sure Red Wings fans are totally fine with dealing off. So I would love the Trouba trade. I don't know if that's going to be the move, like I said, because you have to do a lot of things with his contract. I don't think they're going to take that big contract on. So I think I would maybe lower the bar a little bit now, especially given that situation and everything that we've heard, come out about Jacob Trouba. So yeah, I think they're maybe lower the bar. There's still a good defenseman coming. Just like I said a couple of days ago, don't panic. This forward signing was coming. I didn't know it would be Tarasenko. I thought they would have kind of went a trade route after how the free agency boiled down to start off with. But I mean, you got the best free agent left on the board today.
Yeah, they had like 20-ish million left, and
they still do have some contracts to get worked out. But I'm assuming with the way things are going, they're still going to go make that acquire a right-handed defenseman. It's still all part of the plan, no matter if it is offloading someone or whatever. They're going to go out and they're still going to get a guy.
It feels like every time I see them make the move the last couple of days, a goalie is involved. I don't know if that's just me, but it's like they're just stacking up goalies. And I don't know if any of these goalies they've brought in are good, but it's just like I feel like, and now I see some people in the chat like we've got enough goalies. Does it feel weird that is he like just find someone?
It's not Troy Weaver with centers.
The goalie you traded for today, you will probably never see. He's in the ECHL, so like he's got long steps above him. And then you sign Jack Campbell. You're not going to see Jack Campbell.
Good linebacker there.
Let's pray on it. We won't see Jack Campbell. He'll be more of a Grand Rapids guy. But you do have Cam Talbot. You still have Alex Line, and you still have Billy Husso. And
I like Billy Husso, man. I wish he would have worked out. The man just
Billy's a great goalie when he's healthy, but he's been battling a lot of injuries, and he's even been forced. Well, no, I wouldn't say forced to play, but he's went out in there and played when, he was battling those injuries. And, he had some good games. He had some very bad games, but.
So why do they just keep giving up random pieces for goalies? It's like, why not just keep
they still do have Trey Augustine, Sebastian Cossa, and those guys we're hoping will be like the next generation goalies for our future, and hopefully see those guys in a few years. But I mean, when you're talking about guys like, the one you traded for from Anaheim, these aren't guys that you're hoping, could be something very soon. You're kind of hoping that they could be backup plans down the future, and just hopefully pan out if you need them to. And like the goal you acquired today was all a cap dump. And, he just built up on depth in his lower leagues.
That's fair. I'm on the Iser plan. I trust it. The Iser plan reminds me of the Booner path, so I'm all in on it. It's taken a little longer than maybe expected, but I will say this. I do agree where a lot of people are, and Jeff, I know you guys go back and forth about the Troy Weaver Yzerman thing. I think in hockey, you have to take that approach to be able to slowly build. Like when Yzerman did it in Tampa and then leaves and they win all those cups. It's like, okay, like give him time. It's different in the NBA. In the NBA, you could figure it out. And it's either you have it or you don't. Yzerman's already done it. So yeah, it's going to take longer, but it's worth it. At least that's how I look at it. I think I've seen the vision.
The NBA and NHL are both like the NFL is not for the long. I mean, teams go from worst to first all the time. I think in hockey and basketball it's a little different. Yeah. But the difference is Stevie Y's done it. Like that. Like it's.
And to be honest,
like, we joke around, but
no offense to you and Troy Weaver, but like Stevie Y was an injury away from already getting this team to the playoffs and competing in the playoffs. He was like an injury away.
Yeah.
Troy Weaver was the worst team in NBA history away.
It doesn't matter if Dylan Larkin gets injured or not. They still choked the season away. They
for sure did. Win, but Yzerman has built.
They weren't an injury away. They essentially blew it. But
I agree. But I do think like
Larkin was the cherry on top.
But like Yzerman put the team together to be in this position. So I do think he's done as much as people might hate him. I look at it in a sense to where I don't know hockey as much, but just from a sports fan's perspective and a Detroit fan looking from the outside in a little bit, he's done a way better job than a guy like Troy. Like that's not even a conversation to me.
No,
like when Jeff tries to go at you
into that.
When Jeff goes at you for that, I think it's one of the craziest things of all time.
Wait, when what?
When you try like, like he goes at you for Troy Weaver, you're like, well, Eichmann's at home too, right? Like, come on, dude.
I
He's
never
built
said
something.
that. I never said that.
All right, we got to
it
go
was a
back and
joke.
clip.
I do mess with him because he'll come with the Pistons. I'll be like, well, our offseason started at the same time. But I've never
that's what I don't like, because one team
comment,
had
dude.
14 wins and the other team was a
Yeah,
game
but
away
it's
from making the
okay.
playoffs.
It's a joke. Police, relax. All right, this guy's gatekeeping. It's a joke. But
You
I've
need to
never
clarify
once
your
compared
jokes.
Stevie and Troy. Mike, back me up.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have never
He
said
has
that.
trolled
That
me
would be
from
over.
time
That
to
would be
time.
egregious. That would be egregious. That would be egregious. I admit that. Even years ago, I mean, because Stevie's proven it, Troy hasn't, and Troy falls asleep at press conferences, and Steve doesn't. So, yeah, there's that as well. Let's welcome in the man, the myth, the legend. I mean, the doc. It is Wednesday, and therefore,
Legend.
friend, join the program. And we're going to break down not only training camp, but some of the stuff we've been talking about the last couple of days that hopefully we can get the Doc's answer on. I played a little quick 9 holes with Doc. You know, Doc's solid. A very underrated golfer. I will say that. Very, very fundamental. Very fundamentally sound. Let's please welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Maakaron. John, welcome to the program. How you doing, my man?
Yes, sir, fellas. It's great, man. It's a good time. Enjoyed playing golf with Iafrate. It was great. But my favorite part of the week was nearly giving Booner a heart attack at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I never seen a guy more scared in my life to walk next to professional golfers. It was great. He didn't understand
I
didn't understand that you could actually walk behind the golfers. And I sent you guys a great picture. You guys can see it. If they post it on here, it was great. Booner's sitting there in the spot on the second hole, and CBS caught him. You went national. So it was great, man. It was fun because the Rocket Mortgage, very gracious, letting local media out there to cover it. It's really fun, and it was fun to talk golf with Booner and to see how that all shook out. And actually, Booner got to see the winner. I saw the DSP curse lived on in that I saw every shot of the final group, and you saw the winning group. So it was fun to text back and forth. And it was a good time, man. It was the Rocket Mortgage. It really, in the end, is underrated. I think it's a great event locally for people locally to check out the best golfers in the world do their thing.
Doc, I appreciate you were gracious. You helped me out a ton walking on Sunday, and I think it worked out. Like, you were like, Booner, you're with me today. And Doc kept saying this. We were walking together, and the Doc kept looking at me going, hey, you're with the DOC. They're not going to say anything to me. And I was like, all right. And after the second hole, I think it worked out. After the second hole, I said, hey, I want to go follow. I'm going to go follow. Like, I wanted to go follow Cam Davis in their group. And we ended up working it to where they were about to go to overtime. We were covering it together. We're texting each other back and forth like, hey, Cam Davis birdie, this happened. And we were helping each other kind of cover the whole thing with those last two groups. And the event is crazy. Like, shout out to all the people who let us even go and be credentialed there. It was crazy to do that. I hope next year they get like 100 more. Like, I hope the whole best golfers in the PGA end up at some point coming to Detroit because it's such a good event. It was a great time, though. Shout out to Doc, man.
It is.
Legend.
And like I said, man, now it's summertime and get out there. I think Michigan has such a plethora of great golf courses, man. It's such a great time to get out there, especially in the summer months. A little hot last couple of days, but still get out there and have a good time, man. It's great. Enjoying some time off before training camp rolls around. But it's been interesting to see free agency with the Pistons and the Red Wings and kind of seeing how these teams are taking shape similarly to the Lions in kind of their free agency mode, not taking big swings, but really focusing on developing their young talent. So it's been interesting and intriguing to see how everything's going, and all these rankings and kind of the talk about the Lions has been real interesting as well, to kind of get a sense of how the national media is viewing the Detroit Lions.
Well, Doc, I'll start off with this, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little ignorant here, but Jeff Risdon reported that the Lions are not interested in receivers. Agents are telling agents that they're not interested in wide receivers. Sounds very familiar to something that we talked about, John. Yeah, a couple weeks ago. It's weird how that works, but I'll throw it to you, John. What are your thoughts on that report?
Was that I told you so?
No, not to you. Well, and not even to you, Booner. Just in general. Like I'm cool. Brad Holmes is cool, so I'm cool. All right,
Can't
that's
wait
how
to
that
hit
works.
you with one.
What'd you make of it, John? And it seems like it's on brand, right?
Absolutely. I don't know if you guys got a chance, if you have HBO Max, the Giants Hard Knocks offseason
Oh,
was off the chains. To see Joe Shane talk about Saquon Barkley, talk about kind of the philosophy of how they're looking at roster construction. We're going to have an opinion piece tomorrow at All Lions, just looking at, man, if Brad Holmes was featured on that, he'd be a bigger star than he already is locally. I think nationally, when you kind of look at just how bright he is and the way in which he constructs a roster, I don't think that it's really all that much breaking news to indicate that in free agency now they're kind of pausing and not going to look at wide receivers heading into training camp. They do have a couple of individuals at 4 and 5 that are competing. And I think that they have also in Caden Davis and Williams, they have some wide receiver talent that they want to see. So I think that it's pretty clear. You didn't really need a lot of sources to kind of understand that at the wide receiver spot, when Dan Campbell has talked about it, he's kind of indicated that, look, they're all set there for now, barring any injuries. And I think that the position that they would maybe look at would be along the defensive line or at safety. But I think it's fair. I think it's good to hear that agents will come out and say, hey, that, maybe a player that they represented talked to the Lions and they just said, we're not in the market right now. But I think the Lions have always been kind of clear and honest when the media has asked them about kind of Dan Campbell said, I think one of the last media sessions that he had, he was asked, okay, prior to training camp, what are you looking for? And he said, basically, shoring up some competition and depth. And they did sign the linebacker Neiman there soon thereafter for some competition and depth there at the linebacker spot. Maybe they do that for the offensive line and at the safety spot if there's a spot available for the Detroit Lions. But there's not going to be big splashes. These are just moves that you would probably look to just have, you don't want to be disrespectful, but just individuals that will be given an opportunity to potentially earn a spot on the practice squad. You don't expect big moves at this point in time with this roster at this point, the way it's been constructed.
Yeah, Doc, I want to ask you this too on the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned there one of the position groups that potentially you could see a trade in the trade market or kind of moves being made of free agents, the defensive line. And we had a discussion before the show, and even we talked about it to open the show, was the Matthew Judon situation. I don't know if you've seen it just yet, but he's been tweeting out all day that it's essentially he's probably out of New England and going to be looking for a different place to go. Where do you stand on that? Like, kind of two parts to this question, I guess, is one, do you see it like viable for the Detroit Lions to actually pursue him this offseason before training camp or during training camp? And if he becomes available to make that trade, and do you think that's something that he ends up leaving, or do you think he just kind of sticks it out until his contract's up?
Yeah, that situation has been wild. What was interesting to read about was Jelani Tavai kind of finding his niche with the Patriots. It always was very intriguing. And I look back, one of my first media questions was to Matt Patricia on Jelani Tavai's first day. And he kind of gave the standard answer. It's like, hey, it's his first day. He's got a long way to go, but he just never really showcased a lot here in Detroit. And it was intriguing when he got the extension. For Judon at 31 years old, I think that maybe – it's something always to look at, but I don't think that at this point, when you have Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes who need to take a step forward this year, I think they really do like Agude. I thought that he acclimated very well in terms of what we got a chance to see. I thought he got to the football, showed speed. I think that he's a player that the Detroit Lions really like. And it's really intriguing when you look at it. The early pre-training camp roster predictions, we did one, the Free Press did one, and the linebacker spot is real intriguing in regards to, do you keep 4 or 5? Does Agude get in the mix? You probably presume that it's going to be Alex Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Agude in the mix, also competing with Jalen Reeves-Maybin. So you look at 4 or 5 linebackers on the roster. Does anybody else sneak in? I don't think they need another veteran. But at this point in time, you look at a player of that caliber. He's very talented, but just with each passing year, you do slow down a little bit, especially at that linebacker spot. I liked his game. I thought that he was a bright spot on a team that has been struggling the last couple years. But I just think that, for him, I think that he's more in line with opportunities for, playing time maybe somewhere else, because I think the playing time in Detroit might not be there for someone 31 years old and in his position right now.
Doc, Judon would come right in. See you later, Davenport. Scoot over.
Instantly, yeah. Instantly, he
Playing
would take that
time,
spot
Doc.
over.
He'd walk in. He's better than anybody they got.
You're booting Davenport before we even get a chance to see him. I wonder if he take the opportunity to do it. You know, it's interesting when you look at, you know, how Brad Holmes operates. I think that they do their research, they do their due diligence, and I do think that if that name would have been starting to circle a little earlier, maybe you could believe it. But I think they do. Like, it's interesting, you know, it's not like how it is in terms of fantasy booking where we kind of just say, hey, do this. It's not like Madden, you push a button. I think the Lions do their due diligence. They do a lot of research. And I think that I just find it difficult, you know, with how the way the Lions talk about free agency. Like, look, if they did it, it would be great. I think that more competition at different spots is great. And I know people are concerned about Davenport and what he's going to bring to the table, but I kind of like what Davenport can do if he does stay healthy, and then also with James Houston as well. So just like with the Red Wings and those that are saying, hey, why aren't you bringing in more big names? And like the Tigers say, you don't want to give away time for the young guys. And I think that James Houston is somebody that they also like as well. So I don't want to take time away from Barnes or James Houston and taking time from look, 31 years old. The Lions have kind of trended younger in regards to, you know, the way in which the roster has been built. So I know everyone loves Tobias Harris at 31 years old and $25 million, but my God, you know, I like the way the roster is constructed right now. I don't think you need to be searching for trades for plus 30 linebackers, even though
come on, Doc.
For 1 year, he could do some things, but I think they're okay with what they got at their spots right now.
Hey, it's like the Rams getting good old Von Miller. Just come on over here for a year. You know, come on over here for a year. Help us get this bull. Mike, what do you got?
Doc, these boys kind of talk about it.
If it was 2 years ago, I'd jump all over it. This year, I don't know.
That's fair.
Doc, the boys talked about it at the beginning of the show. I think PFF had the Lions' defensive line ranked 4th. Is that too high, too low in your opinion, or is that just perfect?
It's pretty high, Doc.
That is. I was like, whoa, that's a nice ranking there. I know the PFF has been, you know, throwing out their rankings here and there. I love the fact that they ranked the offensive line number 1. The defensive line, look, when you got Aiden Hutchinson, that gives you credibility right away. And I think that when you see a guy that's potentially poised for 15 to 20 sacks and another, you know, solid season with all the pressures and everything, that's a good starting point. And then you add DJ Reader, which PFF loved. They love the veterans. They love the addition of a player that probably is going to open things up for Aleem McNeil. I think the ranking's pretty fair. They do have a lot to prove. They do have to stay healthy. But you look at also, I think, a player that is going to be talked about quite a bit, and you guys have talked about it, we've written about him, is Aleem McNeil. I think that he's going to be poised for what I think is going to be a real stellar season. It's real special, a force. I think he's going to continue to be a run stuffer. And then now with DJ Reader taking some attention, maybe you'll also have some opportunities for some great pass rush. And I think he's going to have a great season. And this defensive line, yeah, the question marks are going to be, you know, does Josh Paschal take the next step forward? That'd be great. You know, John Kaminsky is going to battle, maybe could be somebody that is battling for a job, but is also an individual that has experience. And then you just, like you guys have said, Davenport is going to be the key. I think if he can stay healthy, now you mix and match with him and James Houston and the young, talented Mekhi Wingo. Now you have an opportunity to do some things and mix and match and have guys that can play at multiple different spots. And that's what the Lions love. So Aaron Glenn's got to be happy. And then again, I think the wild card is the new defensive line coach, Terrell Williams, is going to get Broderick Martin in better shape. He's going to get him some opportunities there as well. So you got some young developmental guys as well. So that just is a perfect ranking, I think, right now heading into training camp.
Yeah, and Doc, another thing I want to ask you, and great job, by the way. I just want to, you know what, we got to give Doc some love, like we always do. But you got Jake Bates. Great interview, by the way. I thought, you know, Doc, very professional, had his polo on. I mean, Doc, yeah, SI's best, man. And it was we broke it down here on the show. And,
no polo tonight, Doc?
No polo for the Doc. But, Doc, I got to ask you, one, how was the interview for you and just getting a chance to talk to him? I loved his perspective on a lot of things. I know we talk about a lot that there was an adjustment kicking in the NFL. We all understand that. But the way he was talking about how at the end of the day, it's something that he does for a living, and he just lives in the moment. And he just understands, listen, I just go up there and kick, although the crowd's there and it's going to be different than 9,000, 10,000 people. I understand that. But what do you think of Jake Bates, his kind of mentality and your confidence and kind of, see you later, Michael Badgley. Where are you at with
it was fun going back and forth trying to schedule the interview. Look, I'm somebody that I think is kind of in the mold of being a direct interviewer. And I did peek in a little to the breakdown, and it made me laugh. One of your commenters said, I can see why Doc wears a cap because he's going bald. And yes, I can't. I'm not allowed on those videos to wear hats. It's professional. And look, this is, to be honest, right now, this is vacation mode which is always wild to me, is that the beat writers kind of like disappear off the face of the earth. Like they never had, like, there's no more NFL. Like they still do their pieces and stuff like that, but they don't interact as much. I understand it. We need some time away, but I didn't need that much. I'm always online at Detroit Podcast. So I wanted to, in a way, establish, the Lone Wolves podcast. I've always done Lions podcast, but I said to myself, okay, we got this new named podcast that's for SI specifically. It's called the Lone Wolves, to take from Brad Holmes and saying, hey, I'm kind of somebody that's more direct and right to the point and asking these big, bold questions. So I said, okay, I like the name. I'm one of the lone wolves in the media, just doing his thing in my way. So I said, okay, how do you start to distinguish yourself? Well, you kind of need, to get a guest that people want to pay attention to. And boy, I thought the response would be great, but obviously when others write about it and you guys talk about it, the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and it's the fastest growing podcast I've had. And it's great to see the response. And look, the point was simple. It was, okay, let's learn about somebody that's new to the roster and had this experience that's just really kind of different than what we've all been used to. A kicker that played for a UFL team that had success at Ford Field. And when one of your first kicks is a 64-yarder, I wanted to learn more about Jake Bates. And I thought that and I've told you guys, he was a great guest. And the best guests are the ones that come in that want to be there and that elaborate and answer the questions directly. And they know how to look. I asked him a point blank kind of question that, you kind of assume he might skirt around, where I said, hey, was that second year part of the reason why you came? And he said, look, there's a lot of factors. And I do think that clearly getting the 2-year deal and an opportunity, maybe kind of knowing what the situation is, being here kicking at Ford Field, that, his agent said, look, this is an opportunity you have to go out there and handle business. So I thought that if you go check it out, it's available everywhere. You just type in Jake Bates, you can find it. You can find it at All Lions by visiting si.com/NFL/Lions. It's right there in the podcast page. I do think he's got a legitimate chance. He's got the biggest intangible. He's got a big leg, and the guy can kick 60-yard field goals. And the number one thing for him is going to be when he's put out there in preseason games and in the practice reps, he's got to be consistent. Look, you can have the biggest leg in the world, but if in a situation in which you're called upon to kick field goals, you're inconsistent, as he kind of was a little bit towards the end of the year, missing some 45-yarders, you got to be somebody that's going to have to beat out Michael Badgley. So to me, as we speak, even though I interviewed him, right now Badgley's in command. He's the incumbent, but Jake Bates has a legitimate chance to beat him out. Look, Riley Patterson beat out Badgley last year. So why can't that happen?
He did.
Again? He's going to be given the opportunity. So when it's time, it's going to be time to deliver the goods and make your field goals. And it's real simple. When the time comes and you're competing, I mean, they're going to compete. And you guys have been out there. You can see how they do it. They line them up at different spots, 30, 45, 55, 60, and they put them out there in different timed drills. And hey, go at it, start kicking. And they monitor each, and we'll be out there each day reporting on clearly one of the biggest battles out there. So if Jake Bates wants the job, he's clearly got to go out there and take it. from Michael Badgley. And I do think with his leg and his confidence, and if he's doing the work now this offseason, which we all know he is, then I think the competition is going to be really great and fun to watch, especially in the preseason games and during all the training camp practices.
He's coming for his job.
We
Doc.
are a pro.
Coming
Yes,
for the
we
job.
are a pro Jake Bates.
But I'll ask you,
show
but,
here.
but I'll ask you guys this, because it's a new era of NFL football with the new kickoff rule. Would you keep 2 kickers? Would you potentially say, hey, okay, if he does well, maybe you say you got 1 kicker for the distance, 55 to 65, that's Jake Bates' job, and everything else is Michael Badgley's job? Do you think any opportunities there to be outside the box and keep both? Or do you say, okay, if one, then one goes on the practice squad? You look at it and you say it's not out of the realm of possibility to keep 2 kickers, but at the same token, I'm curious to see how the Lions view this, especially if it's close. Like, what do you do if it's close? That's the biggest thing Jake Bates got to do, is make this a super tough challenge. I don't think they would keep 2, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. The Lions are unique.
Doc,
if it's close, you go Jake.
I was going to say real quick, you're talking Cade McNamara, maybe JJ McCarthy. We're talking about that.
Yeah. We're talking about a higher ceiling here. If it's close,
Hey,
Jake Bates is the talent, and Badgley.
Big kick, big leg.
Yeah, you take the talent. Doc, I want to ask you, we had a question yesterday, and we talked about it on our show about the Detroit Lions secondary. And I posed a question to the guys in the chat if they thought the Detroit Lions secondary could be a top 10 unit, and PFF ranked them 11th. And then I mentioned that I think by the end of the season, with the pieces that they put together, that they'll be in the top 10 by the end of the season, top 7 potentially. Like, they can make that jump. Do you think, and I know there's like some younger pieces on this defense or the secondary, do you think the secondary ends up being the best unit on this defensive side of the ball? And do they take a step to be a top 7 secondary in the NFL?
Yeah, that's the biggest key. I think defensive line, you have a little bit more sure answers there in regards to Aiden Hutchinson and DJ Reader and Lee McNeil. You have more proven in terms of we've seen it for a little bit longer. The secondary's got to get out there right away and start to prove it, man. It's going to be interesting. Carlton Davis has been a guy that hasn't been a true number 1, but has that talent. So he's going to be given that job. I think he's going to earn it. I think he's the veteran that wants to also prove based on his contract that, hey, I can be potentially, if not here in Detroit, somewhere else, somebody that can be a lockdown corner or do a lot of different things. Listen, Terrion Arnold is somebody that I think is going to have more of an immediate impact. Look, he's going to have his rookie moments. He's going to struggle at times. Look, he's going to get picked on by the NFC North quarterbacks. There's such great talent at wide receiver. It's just tough to limit everything that goes on. And I asked one of the safety coaches, I said, look, man, the NFC North has got some stacked wide receivers. It's going to be a challenge. And he said, yeah, look, all over the place, all over the league, these wide receivers are coming in from college and they're developing and they're able to really do some things just based on how the league is set up. So it's just really tough. But I think it's going to be a fascinating challenge. I love the offseason workout videos of Terrion Arnold. You see him all over the place. His footwork is out of this world. I just think that he's got fundamentally sound techniques. I think he's ready to go, and he wants to be a Hall of Famer. The wild card is going to be Ennis Rakestraw. If he can stay healthy, he's a physical, I think, defensive back that can play nickel. He's learning the different responsibilities. I think your first year is always tough because the Lions are going to try to play him at multiple spots outside, at nickel, and at different positions. So he'll have his opportunities, but there'll be a learning curve there. The big thing for him is if he's going to stay healthy. I like Amik Robertson at the nickel spot along with Brian Branch. I think the secondary has more question marks, is more wait and see. I think the unit that you can count on is the safeties. You put Brian Branch with Iffy or Brian Branch with Kirby, I think that safety spot is pretty locked down. They're going to force some turnovers. They're going to be around the ball, clogging up the middle, making things a lot easier. So the secondary has question marks. I think the ranking at 11th that PFF gave was pretty fair, and they'll have an opportunity with development to get into that top 10 and be productive. But they're going to be tasked with more interceptions, more breakups. And at least at this point, we're all more comfortable smiling a little bit more because it's much better than Jerry Jacobs and Cam Sutton. I think the Lions secondary, good job. Kudos to Brad Holmes for revamping it and getting a lot more talent. But that position is super tough to succeed just based on these offenses. And it's going to be a challenge, but it's one in which if they are able to meet it, ooh, man, look out. If the defense becomes a strength, I think that these games can be won even more comfortable where, last year there was a lot of grinded out games. Maybe the Lions can be one of those teams that, hey, if they get rolling, maybe they can beat teams by 7 to 14 points every single week.
Do you think, Doc, and another question I already had, and it fits perfect into kind of what you just said there, but Brian Branch, you saw the video, like he obviously had that small injury and he was rehabbing, so he wasn't at OTAs and minicamp. Do you think this is like a Pro Bowl jump for him this year? Because it seems like everyone's kind of counting on him to do that, and he showed so much. Like he showed a ton last year in spurts, and then he obviously had some injuries. Do you think this is a year to where it's like he ends up being one of the best players on this defense and one of the best safeties in the entire NFL? I'm hoping. I'm banking on it.
Yeah, listen, it's crazy because let me share my mindset. Last year I approached Brian Branch the most, I think, out of any player that was in the locker room. And it's a double-edged sword because I love the fact he was coached by Nick Saban. I'm fond of Nick Saban. When he was at the draft, I stood there and seeing him on the set with McAfee, I almost was like, whoa, I see the aura of Nick Saban. I almost tried to rush the stage and be like, I'm your biggest fan. Nick, thank you for what you did for all these Alabama guys, because Detroit is now the Detroit Crimson Tide. So you look at it, on the one side, I love that he was coached hard by Nick Saban. On the other side, Nick Saban does not like his players talking to the media. So it was a grind to get information. Like he was super uptight and super serious. I tried to, do as much as I could to get some information out of him, but he was like, boom, like he was ultra business. And it took the more times I kept approaching him, the better it got. So this year 2, I hope that he can understand that, hey, look, you're somebody that people strongly care about. And he got the seal of approval when Chris Spielman said, wait a minute, slow down, everybody. The talk of Gibbs, the talk of Jameson Williams, wait a minute, pump the brakes. Maybe eventually the best pick that Brad Holmes could have made could be Brian Branch. That was what Chris Spielman said. And why did he say that? I could see it right away why he would say that. All business. The man wants to study. The man understands the game. He made an impactful play his first time out there in prime time against the Chiefs. And the man is, look, if you're going to be tasked with, it's no easy feat to just go from nickel cornerback to safety. And everybody's like, yeah, we believe he can do it. And nickel cornerback is not easy. I mean, you got to be, somebody that reads plays quickly, sure tackler. You got to be a linebacker and a cornerback to play nickel. And he embraces it. So I think Brian Branch, you should levy even higher expectations. Pro Bowl is more of a, popularity kind of thing. I think he could be an all-pro. I think Brian Branch can be somebody that could be, if he's healthy and does some things, he can also be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. I think that this is a player that you can count on to do the work. He does his homework. He's somebody that cares deeply about his craft. And he came out and said that he felt like he left a lot on the table his rookie year. When you have somebody that kind of has the intangibles and the mindset to be great, I think Brian Branch is exciting. He's not talked about even enough. We should be praising Brian Branch a lot more for the season that he had and what he can do. I think he could be one of the premier defensive backs in the NFL in a few short years. And we're seeing the fruits of it now. Imagine in a couple of years from now when he's in his prime. Man, I think that Brian Branch, you can't speak highly enough about him. And hopefully, he loosens up a little bit when we get a chance to talk to him.
All right, Doc, this is a non-Lions question. You went golfing with our boy Jeff here. I just need to know how the overall experience, and if Doc was starting an article or he was writing an article on Jeff's performance, what does that article say?
Oh,
Doc,
Jeff,
give the context, Doc.
Yeah. You didn't prep your boys. This is good. So here's what happened. Jeff, last week we started talking about, let's golf together, let DSP and Crunch Time get together. And I said, hell yeah, let's do it. And Jeff sent me a message of his swing. And I said, oh, okay. So I had thought that he was practicing at CJ Barrymore's on that same day. I said, oh, you're out there? I said, okay, it looks good. I think let's see about this swing and get it rolling. And I said, you know what? it's Tuesday, and I said, you know what? I'm not doing much. I want to start this vacation because it's the slow time of year. I'm taking a lot more time off, not grinding as much writing. So I said, you know what? Let me see if Jeff's in the area, and let's go out and let's play some golf. And I said, you know what? 9 holes for me at this point suits me so much better. A couple hours, and Jeff got out there, and look.
I competed, Doc. I competed.
Yeah, let's just say this. I whooped his ass out there on the scorecard, but I'll say this: it was more of a practice session for Jeff. He was tinkering. He was trying to see which clubs suit his game better, whereas I'm already established with fitted clubs and have used them for a year. So I was pretty comfortable. You know, for me, my game is simple. I can't drive at all. I can hit it 250, but I can't tell you where it's going. So my iron play is a lot better. Chipping is up and down. Putting is, average. But I can get around a course reasonably. Jeff was all over the place. Jeff was spraying people. Jeff was hitting old ladies. Like there was one time I had to yell 4 at the loudest I could because Jeff almost took out 4 older ladies with one swing. It was so bad. He was 40 yards off the tee 40 yards left off of every drive. But we were working on it. We were trying to, get it out there and work on it. But listen, Jeff's a gamer. He rebounded. He took counsel. He finished strong. And look, the best part of golf, and that's what keeps us going. And that's why I love playing with Jeff. You can tell right away if you can, have a good round with someone. Jeff was into it. He listened. I said, hey, try this, try that. And then, dude, Jeff lined up an 8 or 9 iron with 100 yards. Took it within 20 feet and just launched a beautiful 8-iron. Finishing hole was absolutely stunning, and he finished strong like a champ. So I could definitely play a lot of golf with Iafrate. But, for the ladies there, man, look out because that was scary. I thought he was going to take somebody out with all of the wayward drives that were going on. But it was professional. We had a good time. Sycamore Hills is always nice, and they put us on the right spot where we could kind of, you could practice. You've seen my drive. Jeff taped me secretly. I didn't know. I turned around and there's Jeff taking photos of me. And I'm like, you know what? All right, now it's crunch time.
Whoa, Jeff.
Yeah, he was trying to, get some content. So I said, okay, guys. I said, I'm going to hit the best drive. That was the best drive I think I hit, which was like a 40-yard fade, but that ended up going to the right. So, yeah. Yep. And, you know
I
what,
can't
Jesse?
wait to get out with the doc.
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
It'll be a good time. You know what, Jesse? What's funny is that I am a shorter guy, and my nephew's like, "Are those pants or shorts that you wear when you're?" I like those longer cargo pants. I like them like that. I don't know why. I'm not a fan of the above the knee shorts. I do have them on now, but I am more into the cargo pants and things like that. But I had a good time, and listen, it definitely was the best way to spend the Tuesday was a couple hours golfing and got my mind off of a lot of nonsense. And look, if that's where Jeff is starting, he's got a ways to go. But at the same token, if he does put in the work and just a couple minor changes, I think his swing will come into form. And, specifically probably using clubs that he's comfortable with and not going experimenting with the doc, trying to figure out what clubs suit him.
Yeah, well, you know what, Doc? I appreciate you not throwing me under the bus. I almost, by the way, those old ladies, I almost took off the Crunch Time polo I was wearing, just avoided the lawsuit purposes. I almost just tried covering the logo. They don't know who I am. So yeah, I had a blast. With you, Doc. We got to do it again. But I gotta ask you because we talked about this too. Mark Schlereth, Stink. He has his own podcast. And he was talking about the Lions roster, and he was like, "Oh, the Lions roster stacked." And he mentioned Dan Campbell, and I believe it was his co-host or a guest. I don't know exactly who it was, but he asked Mark about Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, and he said he doesn't think he'll change. He thinks that's who he is, and I think he also mentioned that it gives the players a kind of a different mindset on third down, given they know they're going to go for it on fourth down. What'd you think of his take on Dan, and even if they do get a kicker, I mean, we can all assume that he's always going to be Dan, even with higher expectations to try and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's, listen, the blessing is this offseason is hearing the compliments of the rest of the NFL world when you see how much praise the Lions have gotten in regards to the way in which they've kind of steadily built. And the NFL lends itself to a 2-3 year rebuild. And it's been fun. I think Detroit sports fans look collectively to take a step back. I just recorded a podcast a couple hours ago and just saying, I think the fans have a little bit of fatigue with all the rebuilds with the Tigers, Wings, and the Pistons. And it's very slow. It's like the trajectory is like this. Like it's fan fatigue. I mean, literally they're making lateral moves with the Red Wings, losing an interesting player, gaining a player. And you look at the rest of the teams and you realize, man, Dan Campbell is among the best coaches in town. And maybe, pretty much arguably the best based on his knowledge and experience and what he's got going on. And the amount of respect that he's garnered nationally has been amazing. And you get, Schlereth saying, man, that roster's stacked. And it really is when you see it from top to bottom. There's so many potential Pro Bowlers. You look at young players that are still very much in the early part of their careers. You can name them off at least, 6-7 players that have supreme talent. So with Dan Campbell, I think that, he realizes that being aggressive is the pathway to win. And when you have all those offensive weapons, why not? I mean, I think that you see now when the great part is this year is going to be to analyze who gets the target. I mean, clearly Amon-Ra should always be the first choice, but then you have Laporta, who many people, Travis Kelce's praising, I think going to emerge to be a top 2-3 tight end, could arguably be the best tight end right now in the National Football League. So why not be aggressive? Go for it. And the thing that he said, which was really, really key, that got me to look and do some more film watching and research, was he said that the reason Dan Campbell likes to be aggressive on fourth down is it kind of makes third down pressure a little bit easier. Like you don't exactly have to, execute exactly right. Like if it's 3rd and 7 and you get 5 yards, there's no supreme pressure knowing that, hey, on fourth down, we can pound the ball with David Montgomery. We can do things. So that actually helps the Lions mix and match in terms of play calling on third down. And it really is true. The Lions were able to succeed on third down quite a bit. They moved the football, they moved the chains, and you recognize that, man, with everything they got going on, so many positive things, that this football team, Dan Campbell, should be aggressive. It's the pathway to win. Now, with that said, I think he will be aggressive, but there's going to be times I think that the interesting discussion and debates could occur this year if Bates is the kicker and you got a kicker that consistently can hit 65-yarders. Would Dan Campbell have gone for it as much if he believed he had a kicker with that strong a leg? If he had, a kicker that was all world last year, would he have done the same thing? It's yet to be determined, and we'll see. But I do think it's going to be a high frequency. He's going to be among the most, one of the most, they're going to go for a heck of a lot as compared to the rest of the National Football League. But I think that, I think the best way to put it is I do think there has to be some level of adaptation when the playoffs roll around and points are at a premium. In the regular season, it's a little different than the postseason. The postseason, every point matters. Literally every point matters because momentum can swing just like that, just like you saw. And I think if the Lions had if you gave Dan Campbell some truth serum and some bourbon and said, hey, would you have maybe kicked a field goal? He probably said, yeah, probably one of them. I would have tried it. And because you saw that your kicker had made one, he was in rhythm. He might have had a chance to get some more points. So we'll see. And it'll be interesting because those will be probably the big decisions that will decipher how we view Dan Campbell moving forward. Right now, he's a toast of the town. Everybody loves him. And he got the team to the NFC Championship game. But the expectation now is to take it a step further. And one aspect of what I think the Lions can also get better at is if their head coach manages the game. Look, it's not a weakness, but he has to also evolve as a head coach and get better and do more. Like, I don't lower the expectations for Dan Campbell and say, congratulations, you got the Lions to the NFC title game. I think that Dan Campbell, with the right players, the right mix, the right coaching, the right growth himself, can be a coach that can win multiple Super Bowls here in Detroit. He's got that potential. He's got the knowledge. It's just in those split-second moments when you got to decide take the points or not, you got to be right. And you got to have it where you can't have your football team collapse the way you get one. Okay, it's your first time. And many people will say, okay, it's the young team and they collapsed. Can't do it again now. The expectation is you understand what you're doing, handle business, and deliver what you're supposed to do. That's what you're getting paid for. And the expectation is not to be satisfied with just where he's at. He's got to take it to the next level. And I think he can be the next Andy Reid. I legitimately believe it. But I hope that it's not a situation in which it's like with the Eagles.
Statement.
I hope it's not a situation where it's like with the Eagles, where the coach there, Reid, took all the heat and struggled, and then goes to a situation somewhere else and reaps the rewards. I hope it's here in Detroit, because look, Dan Campbell has it all. He has all the tools. He has it all. The ability to relate to players, X's and O's, knowledge, experience. He's got it all. I'm hoping he puts it together.
We're definitely, and I'm writing it down right now. We're definitely making a quote graphic and posting it all over social media of the doc going,
yeah,
just even out of context, he can be the next Andy Reid with the big Dan Campbell picture.
Yes.
I love that, doc.
Yes,
I love
of course.
that. People are going to love it too. I've got one last question for you here. Because I saw you guys post an article and then you guys put it up on Twitter. I can't remember who it was on your website who wrote it. But the article essentially was just like a breakout player for the Detroit Lions in 2024 in this season. I just want to ask you who you think, if you had to pick one offensive player, one defensive player to break out this season, if you had to put your money on it, who would you pick for that?
Yeah, no doubt. I assigned that to Christian. Looking at some of the offensive and defensive breakout players, just kind of looking at, which players can you count on? Which players can you say, hey, maybe they can do more? Clearly on offense, the player that everybody wants to break out is Jamison Williams. I think that he's got the tools. Everybody knows that he can, play at a high level and is going to be somebody that's going to earn the number 2 wide receiver spot. I think a player that's underrated is Khalif Raymond. I think that he's a player that can do a lot of different things and can be somebody that can be a reliable number 3. You look at it and you say Jahmyr Gibbs, clearly, but he's got expectations. So that he started to break out last year, and he's somebody that I think is going to be very key. On the defensive side, that's always interesting in regards to looking at the defense. Many people want it to be Jack Campbell, and probably that's the fairest statement to make because, in looking at the film, he did have 95 tackles. He was around the football, but I think that I can't say it was a bad rookie season. I just don't think that first-round talent linebacker was, he didn't meet that level of expectation. But I just think that the Lions put so much on you that, look, it's just really tough to be used at different spots, to try and rush the quarterback, to drop back in coverage, play different spots. So Jack Campbell, I think, is the player on defense that everybody expects, but a player also at the same spot. And in a situation in which you can also see an interview we did, another writer spoke to Alex Anzalone. The linebacker spot, I think Derek Barnes can do more now with his natural spot, rushing the passer. I think that for him, being somebody that can, be more comfortable and now a little bit more comfortable in his skin. He's been through it all. He made the big critical mistake in front of the whole world and overcame it. And now I think that once he gained, and at that spot, you get, and I think too, when you're a linebacker with the Lions and then they go out and they drafted another linebacker in the first round, that kind of maybe shakes your confidence just a little bit, saying, wait a minute, is my job unsafe? But I think the Lions have showed that, hey, we rely on Derek Barnes. He's an integral part of this defense. And then I do think that his mentoring, his relationship with Alex Anzalone, he's got a big brother who will protect him against the big bad media who talk bad about him. And I think that Derek Barnes has a chance, if he gains that confidence little by little, to just put mistakes behind him and get after it. I think he can be somebody that can gain confidence from a big interception in a playoff game and do some things.
Yeah, great stuff today, Doc. We appreciate you. For all Lions fans that are looking for a place to not only watch content, because we got it here on Crunch Time, but you could watch and digest whatever John and his crew are writing, all Lions, in the description. You can check it out. Show some support there, Doc. We appreciate you. We'll catch you next Wednesday. We can't
Legend, Doc.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Doc, as we get closer to the season. So thank you, and we'll see you again next week.
Let's get on the course.
Yes, well, definitely some golf, some sports. It's all good, man. I hope you guys get a chance to take a little time off too for the 4th. Have a good Thursday off and enjoy everything going on. And look, this is the best time of year, in my opinion. I think it's a time to reflect, a time to celebrate the United States, drink up, and let's get after it. And when you look at it, you know, the ability to see everything going on in Detroit sports, it's amazing. You guys are a big part of it. I can't wait to join you guys next week. Let's go. Happy 4th.
Let's
Happy
go.
4th, enjoy your day. Oh, enjoy your weekend. Oh, he just disappears.
Yeah,
Yeah, he does, man.
Fat man.
Yeah, he just comes and he just disappears. We appreciate Doc and next week and man, training camp. I imagine, I keep saying this, but the season with Doc is going to be a blast. So please, come the season. It's going to be great. Fellas, before we got about 20 minutes till mailbag, and I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes here kind of talking about what Mike Payton put out, which he covers the Lions from A to Z Sports.com. And he does this every year. And we brought up the Amon-Ra St. Brown projected year that he talked about. Like, what can Amon-Ra St. Brown do this year? I think he said 1,600 yards. And we discussed that yesterday. He did a breakdown of the entire offense statistically. And it gives us like a visual look of what J-Mo could do, Sam could do, Jared Goff could do in the running back. So let's break this down and we'll give our thoughts on it and see if there's anything that we, agree or disagree with. So let's check it out. And again, this is A to Z Sports.com, but Mike Payton wrote this. And for his first, and by the way, he got Amon-Ra St. Brown's projection last year, like pretty spot on.
Spot on it, essentially. Like he was like a couple catches off, which is crazy.
He was a couple catches.
4 catches off.
Yeah, it was almost spot on. So he's trying it again, and we'll start with Jared Goff's numbers. And he projects Jared Goff to have 4,725 yards, 35 TDs, and 9 interceptions. He writes here, we got Goff's numbers going up this season for a couple different reasons. The first is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's gotten better every single season. We'll have him getting better in 2024. Jamison Williams should be getting more production, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Sione Vaki will see action too. All of these guys are big play guys that tend to take the ball for some yardage. Then there's Sam Laporta, who puts up big plays as well. Goff has some options. If he can get one more really solid receiver, we could be talking about a potential 5,000-yard season. 35 TDs, 9 picks. I mean,
what a year.
4,700 yards.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes, Booner notes, take a look back into it. I just put this as an MVP-esque season.
I was just going to say
that he would have led the NFL in yards last year. He had 4,500 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions last year. Like, that's all increases. And like, if he had these numbers this following season, he probably would have competed for MVP with Lamar Jackson because it was such a bad like class of MVP. So I do think, dude, like, if he does 4,700 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 9
that's
interceptions,
an MVP conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
He's a finalist. And I did put my foot down and say that I think that there's a chance by the end of the season he's a finalist for that award. So like he would have to put numbers like that up to do it.
So 40-1 odds, Boone. Are you taking them?
I'm gonna probably sprinkle a little bit on it because I've said this all along. If Jared Goff, you play 2 or 3 outdoor games, which is what he's bad at. If he somehow gets out of those with putting numbers up, and he puts up big numbers, and the Detroit Lions have the number 1 seed, they win 13 games, and they beat the 49ers in week 17 or 16, whatever it is, and he has a big game, he's in the conversation, and you have a chance at 40-1. Like, his odds are going to go from 40-1 to plus 300, plus 400 down the stretch, and if anything, you get a chance to cash out. Like that's where it's like the value of it is insane itself. Because it's like last year, if he plays good in Dallas, which he didn't, but if he plays good and throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns last year in Dallas and they win, he's in that conversation with Lamar and Brock Purdy. Like, that's just the way it is. That's how the NFL works.
Here's my, we'll get to it because I have some thoughts. I agree that it'll be one of those things throughout the season where he's in contention if this is the yards, but I'll explain why I kind of disagree, but we have to get to a certain stat here before we talk about it. But yeah, I mean, this is a great year by Jared. I mean, under 10 picks, 30 plus TDs, almost 5,000 yards. This is a hell of a season. I mean, this would be, to me, the best quarterback in the NFC. Sure. One of the best in the NFL, but I think this would be the best. I mean, this is kind of what Dak did last year, but Dak didn't really have a run game. So this would be impressive, even in a run-first offense. But look at the receiving core that they project, meaning Mike Payton. But look at some of the numbers here that he has. He has Amon-Ra St. Brown, 125 catches, 1,600 yards, 12 TDs. And you got Sam Laporta, second on the team, 70 catches, 775 yards, 6 TDs. Jamison Williams, third with 65 catches, 782 yards, and 6 TDs. And that's, again, more yards than Sam Laporta. He'd be second on the team in yards. He just has 5 less catches. Jahmyr Gibbs, fourth on the team in receiving yards with 55 catches and 502 yards. Donovan Peoples-Jones, little 378. Khalif Raymond, 350. Vaki with 250. And then Brock Wright and Dave Montgomery with 40-ish each. This seems it doesn't seem, I don't know. Like, to me, Amon-Ra St. Brown if you want to talk about it like this, Sam Laporta is 25 yards away from having basically half of Amon-Ra, his yards.
Yeah.
It seems a little not balanced.
It's interesting.
That's what I would say. I would think you kind of spread some of St. Brown's yards out across the board a little bit. But, like, this is so hard to predict, so I'm not even going to be, like, nitpicky with that. It's all just, like, a prediction and whatnot. But if I was doing it, I would probably just spread out, sprinkle a little bit of St. Brown's yards elsewhere.
And the weird thing, too, like the Khalif Raymond, this is where I go a little different, is, like, the two things that I think I would change up is I would move some yards around. I think I would give Sam Laporta, and I would take maybe 100 from Amon-Ra, but I think I would give Sam Laporta close to 1,000, if not 1,000. And then the other one, too, that I think ends up being your wide receiver 4 over DPJ is Khalif Raymond with 350 yards, 20-something less than DPJ. And I know it's a little nitpicky, but Khalif Raymond, if you look at his last 3 years, he had 490 yards last year. He had 600 yards plus in 2022, and he had 570 yards in 2021. So essentially, like, Josh Reynolds leaves. My opinion, Jamison Williams and Khalif Raymond are the two players that I know for sure that I can essentially trust to step up. And this has Khalif Raymond taking a 150 to 200 yard step back, which is interesting to me. So, like, I think I would say Khalif Raymond, I would find a way where he gets 550, 600 yards. Whether you have to take that away from DPJ or Sion Vaki having 250 off the right away. That's an interesting one because that shows Craig Reynolds is out and there's no Craig Reynolds anymore. So, like, I do think, like, if I had to make any changes to this list and predictions, I would move the numbers around to get Sam Laporta closer to 1,000 and Khalif Raymond over, because you're essentially saying Sam Laporta and Khalif Raymond are taking 2 steps back when you're losing your number 2 wide receiver, which I don't see I don't see that happening.
I don't think that Sam Laporta will take a step back. Like, I think he'll have more yards, but if I'm being honest, and I think Khalif is reliable, but when you have Jahmyr emerging and Jamison emerging, like, I think he's the one that's going to take a hit. I don't think he had 600 yards, but you have to also think about it. Like, no, I'm saying about Khalif. Because he had 600 yards, 500 yards, but you got to think that was also, like, no JMO, and
yeah, but that was also Josh Reynolds, and
but here
still
comes
a Gibbs out of the back
with 500. Like,
yeah, that's where it gets a little tricky to where it's like, are you still gonna, like, Khalif's still gonna get the ball? That's the thing, though. Like, he has 35. Like, he had 35 receptions for 490 yards last year. Like, if he gets another 35, he's probably going to go for another 400 and something. That's how I look at it. Like, he's essentially going to be a similar player. He's not changing it. So, like, I do think JMO gets up around there. But, like, are you like, there's no way Laporta takes a step back. Like, on this, he's basically taking 15 less receptions and 100 less receiving yards. I don't see that happen. I see him staying the same or taking a good step forward.
I would probably take 100 off Amon-Ra and put it to Sam Laporta. And then I don't really have a problem with the rest of it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I don't really mind. I think this is kind of realistic. I mean, a couple guys with a couple hundred. Yeah. And then I think Laporta, the only thing I would change is I think Laporta is closer to 1,000. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs could easily get 500 yards, like 500. I mean, I think we just saw a glimpse of what he can be in the receiving game. So I think 500 is fair for him. You know what I mean? Like,
This is so interesting. This is such an interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like looking at it visually. Like this.
I would
is,
like to have him on to talk about this, honestly.
David Montgomery, that is another one. I know, like Sion, and we all kind of expect him to like do something receiving wise. I just don't know if that's going to happen off rip. And Jahmyr Gibbs, we probably expect that step to definitely be taken, catching the ball. He's shown flashes towards the end of the year, but David Montgomery had 46 yards receiving by week 3.
Yeah. He's a good pass catching back too. I know he's Sione Vaki's here, but
that's going to be the interesting thing, because in the rushing part too. I know we're about to get to that, but like Sione Vaki is in that too. Like I think that was the most interesting part, is that Mike Payton and them, when they did this, it seems that they feel like Craig Reynolds is going to get beat out by Sione Vaki, which
he will.
I think I'm on the same page wavelength. Lucas is in the chat. He's a big Sione Vaki guy. I think that's what ends up happening. But instantly they have Sione Vaki going for 500 plus all-purpose yards, which is the more interesting thing to me.
Tyler, real before we move on here, I just want to get this comment up here. Tyler says, I don't want to sound like a hater, but I think the St. Brown we saw last year is near his ceiling. I don't think career best across the board is realistic, he said. And I'm going to be honest, you're not a hater at all, Tyler. I don't think that's a hating take. I think you're trying to be realistic. I know
1,500 yards is really good anyway. So like, if that's your ceiling, that's
1,500 yards is a hell of a ceiling, dude. Like that.
Yeah.
16, 15, 1,600. That's incredible. I mean, only so many
all
people.
Pro ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, you're breaking Calvin's record, and now you have. I mean, that's a whole thing. Only certain guys are able to do that. But if 15 I mean, come on, it's insane. So I don't think that's crazy at all. But let's keep it pushing here. We'll get to rushing, because this is what I believe. Okay, look at the rushing. So he has Jahmyr Gibbs. I know Lucas would love this. Jahmyr Gibbs with 1,250, 12 TDs. Dave Montgomery with 1,008 TDs.
David's getting more than 8 TDs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Give me that line on a sports book. I'll fucking hammer it.
Yeah,
Dave Montgomery gets in there.
What was it at last year, Gentry? We all were like,
the line was 9.5 last year.
Yeah.
And he
actually, I think it was lower than that, because me and Neil on the other network were boasting about him being like plus 400 for 10 touchdowns or something.
That's even
insane.
Wonder what he is this
crazy
year.
odds. But
I mean,
but one thing, David's playing bully ball. That boy's getting in the end zone. Man, it's getting in the end zone.
I agree with that.
I think the way that this is set is perfect.
I mean, they have 1,250 for Gibbs, like I said, 12 TDs. Montgomery 1,010 and 8 TDs. Sione Vaki with 255 and 2 TDs. It would be Mike Payton writes here, 2 running backs hitting 1,000. That would be the 8th duo in NFL history to do so. So let's put this in context, guys. 8th time it's ever happened. 2,000-yard running backs, run first offense. But Jared's going to be finalist for MVP. Does that make sense? Like, not that it's not impressive, but do you think that kind of matters when you have over 2,000?
Why can't you do both?
Because
I don't think that's crazy.
No, when I look at MVP, I think of most valuable player, and when you have two guys, and by the way, quarterback that's the most important position in football. I get that. That's why all quarterbacks pretty much win the MVP award. I understand that. But do you think that hurts that you have 2,260 yards rushing that year behind the number one offensive line?
No, I mean, yeah, you could use that as an excuse, but I think like you being like it's one or the other. Like just because you're a running offense doesn't mean your quarterback can't. Like they rushed for essentially close to that last year. Like,
and he wasn't even in the conversation.
But if he would have played well in the Dallas game and just had a good game and won the game, he would have been in the like he was one game away from being in the conversation. Like he's still like you're acting like he threw for 4,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. Like he threw for 4,500 yards. He threw for 4,500 yards, Jeff, and basically 30 touchdowns. Like that's like you still being able to do that while also having a running game like they did last year. Like to me, that shows that you could do it. And that's with him having some of the struggling, the bad games he had last year, like in Baltimore and stuff. If he goes through this year and he doesn't have that bad stretch of football that he had last year and he dominates and you have the running game, Like if he goes and throws for 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns this year, and you have two running backs that hit for 1,000, people aren't going to be like, oh, like Jared Goff's 4,700 yards is a fraud because he had 2,000 yards. Like no,
not a fraud. Don't.
But he still threw for those.
It's a lot of yards, Boone. That's what he's saying. He's like, how does this all happen at one
last year
time?
it essentially happened. And it happened last year, and you had a bad stretch of football. If you don't have that bad stretch of football and you dominate all season like you're a contending Super Bowl team, that can happen. Like Jeff, and Lucas put in there, Brock Purdy being ahead of C-Mac was disgusting. I agree with that. C-Mac should have won MVP, but guess what? To your point, Jeff, they had one of the best running games in the entire NFL, and Brock Purdy was still in a battle down the stretch to win MVP when he went head-to-head versus Lamar Jackson. And if he would have won that battle, Brock Purdy is your MVP. So like that point. But that point is so invalid because it literally just happened.
It actually isn't the same, and I'll explain why.
It just happened.
I'll explain why. Christian McCaffrey, best back in football. We agree. I'm not saying you think Brock should have won it. You're not saying that. I agree with you. That C-Mac should have won MVP. But what do you have last year? Right, 1,400 rushing yards. We're talking about 700 more, 800 more in this backfield and a better offensive line. That's my point with that. It's
you can't say, oh, he has a great offensive line, so he shouldn't.
That's a lot.
Come on, Jeff.
That's a lot. 800 more rushing yards.
The 49ers as a team rushed for 2,400 rushing yards. The Lions rushed for 2,300.
Well, I'm talking about with Christian McCaffrey.
But we're talking about rushing game in general. You have one of the best rushing games in the NFL. Okay. As a team, they had 100 more rushing yards than we did last year.
Okay. If you want to go team rushing yards, okay, fair.
That is it, though.
Then we have to factor in Sione Vaki's 255. So now
I think that's part of the argument, though. It's like total rushing game. Like he has this to help him out as well. But I don't think you can use that against someone.
I just think last year Goff, I know you mentioned the stretch that he struggled a little bit. But last year he was top 4, top 5, and top 3 in a couple categories, and he still wasn't even in the conversation. So
it's like being like, should LeBron never have won MVP because he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh? No, they helped him. He was a dog, but they just helped. His team was great. He just had such a great team. I don't think of it like that. It's like, oh, that's like one of those arguments where people are like, well, you say Jared Goff's a top 10 quarterback, but he has he has the number 1 offensive line in the NFL. So you use that against him in the argument. I would
ask you if this happens, let's say these all play out how they're supposed to play.
Give Penei Sewell MVP. At that point,
if they play out, you gonna talk? You want to talk? You want to go? Keep talking.
Keep talking. I'm trying to talk here.
I'll ask you, Boone. Let's say this happens and this transpires. Rank top 3 most important pieces to the offense if this happens.
Number 1, Penei Sewell. So why don't we just give Penei Sewell that?
No, I'm just asking you.
I'm just saying, to your point, it's, well, he has this and this to help him. The number 1 reason that the rushing game is so good and the pass game is so good is because Penei Sewell is there to protect and there to block for the running backs as well.
So you would say,
to your point, the MVP should go to Penei Sewell.
I would agree.
Okay. But you see where I'm going? It's a quarterback. It's a quarterback award.
He plays on a unit. All right,
it's a quarterback award. If he puts 4,700 yards up and you're the number 1 seed overall and you just had a game versus the 49ers, the other number 2 seed, and you go out there and have a big game, that you're going to be in that. That's just the way the NFL works, dude. That's why it was Brock Purdy versus Lamar at the end of the year, and it wasn't CMC versus Lamar Jackson, and it wasn't getting hyped up like that. That as much as we hate it, that just has to welcome to the NFL. I don't know what else to say. That's how the NFL works. I get what you're saying, but
yeah, it's not about you're trying to your argument is what you think the NFL will do, not
what I know the NFL will do.
Yeah. I don't. I disagree.
Well, if you don't know the NFL would have done that, CMC would have been MVP last year. That's my point.
No, they thought Lamar was.
I mean, come on.
And Lamar,
it's a quarterback award. It's a quarterback
award.
What about
Lamar's run game?
It's a quarterback award.
He was the run game. I understand.
Quarterback award.
But when you look at the other candidates besides, I know Brock's a good example, but I can name you 2, Lamar and Dak, that didn't have really much of a run game. And those guys were boosted because
For sure. They were able to make
Exactly.
plays. But like
So
Brock was
would
like a
you agree
Jared
to
Goff
some
situation.
extent that kind of matters. Like those guys don't have the help with the run game.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like the deciding factor though. Like you have to be like, well, just because he has the run game, he shouldn't be in this conversation. Like that's where I disagree with you. Like you're like instantly like you try and look at the negative of, well, he has all this to help him, so
No,
he
I
should be
wasn't
out of
trying.
it.
I'm
It's
just
like, I
trying
don't
to.
think that's it.
I'm trying to give you like the devil's advocate side of it. Like
Fair.
Like when I look at the Ravens, I would say most valuable Lamar Jackson. You know, like that dude, his ability to run the ball kept them alive. You know,
For sure. But like
know,
again, Brock Purdy is the exact same
and I don't
situation
think
as
he even
Jared
should have been
Goff.
there,
And he was one game away from being the MVP.
But they were, but also, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're, it depends how many games also the Lions. I mean, if the Lions go like 14-2 or something, crazy,
13 wins. Like again,
that
my
also
argument
I get that.
stays the same. 13 wins, the 1 seed in the NFC, and you beat the 49ers, and he has a big game, and he has those stats. Like that's like a conversation to be had.
That's fair.
But again, Penei Sewell.
Yeah, you know what? Give it to Penei. Fuck it.
Do you remember when we had the conversation where I was like, if the Super Bowl MVP as an offensive lineman ever won Super Bowl MVP?
Yeah, give it to Penei. Well, I mean, yeah, Tyler says Penei needs his own pasta brand. Yeah, that's fair. I would agree with that.
Good
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, Penei plays on a unit. I get that. So yeah, that man's never gonna. But if there's an offensive lineman that needs the MVP, it would probably be.
Yeah.
He can also catch the football. Can also do that. Don't sleep on it. All right, let's get the mailbag. Steve Lehman, start us off here. What teams
Drop some questions, baby.
that made the playoffs last season do you think will be there this season?
That didn't or that did? Wait.
That made the playoffs.
Made it. That won't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Browns. The Browns, hard division. Joe Burrow come back.
I got a better one. Who do you think that is, Boone?
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
We got two. I got two.
He's gonna say the Bills.
Ooh, the Bills, Jeff.
Bills and Cowboys.
I think the Cowboys is a good one, and I think the.
Oh, you didn't like my Bills?
You like
no,
the Browns,
I think the Dolphins. Too? Yeah, the Browns
I
do like the Browns because I think the Bengals will swoop in. Or the Bengals
they're going to be second
Steelers.
in that division.
Right.
3 teams in that division make it, and one of them is not the Browns.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
I do like the Bills one though, Jeffrey.
See, Mike. Hey. Thank you, Mike.
It's gonna be tough when the Bills are in the playoffs, and you guys are gonna have to like. And then your guys' narratives, you guys are going to move the field goal post.
If they're in the playoffs, Josh Allen's going to be like that Jimmy Butler meme where he's like hunched over.
They're going to be in the playoffs, and you guys are going to move the goalpost and be like, well, they can't win in the playoffs. And then you're just going to keep moving it. Oh, well, they lost in the first round. Well, you guys didn't think they were going to be there at all, so you can't say a word.
If Josh Allen makes the playoffs, give that man MVP.
Clip that. So if they make the playoffs and even lose, you can't go at his career. You can't go at him at all.
No, I would honestly be at Booner. I'm not trying to troll you. If he makes the playoffs, I would.
Everyone watching right now, I don't want anyone to forget that.
Yeah, I'll say it again. I'd be impressed if they make the playoffs and he has a MVP type season. I think he should win it. To be honest, he's about due. Let's be real. He's about due for an MVP at some point. Like the dude's been like
second best quarterback in the NFL. He's going to get one eventually.
He just can't throw like 30 picks, but other than that, he'll be all right.
And that's probably going to happen.
Spot on. Not going to decline.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only thing holding him back this year. ETN says, Mailbag, which team / player are we hate watching the most this year? Oh, that's a little. You know what?
You guys are going to say the Bills.
Probably like one of those teams you name. Maybe the Cowboys. Just praying on their downfall, or maybe even the Packers, like hoping Jordan Love struggles.
This is where I'm struggling, boys, and I'm not gonna lie. This first time me mentioning this, I'm having some second thoughts about the Jets. I'm
I love that. I love that.
In my boots
you're turning to the Bills.
Drama. I'm shaking. I'm gonna stay put, but I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I'm talking on both sides of my mouth here, but I'm gonna watch them because I'm kind of intrigued. It's a whole drama thing going on with the Jets. And, it's kind of reality TV, so I'm interested.
I know there's one team that I'm not gonna watch one game. It's probably the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, you see the tempers?
You see them on Red Zone. That's the team you never tap into.
War room. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. She ain't Sheila. She ain't Sheila.
Trying to be Sheila.
Yeah, Sheila.
That's it.
Yeah, Sheila can
How
say
many
whatever.
how many likes are we at? Everyone hit the like button too.
Yep.
We're at 67. Let's get to 100 likes. We've got 100 people in here. Let's get 30 something real quick.
Real quick, forgot to do this earlier. Mike Reed. You know what, Mike?
Shout out Mike Reed, man.
What
What a legend.
What a legend. Gifted 5 Crunch Time memberships earlier. Mike, we appreciate you, man. Giving back to the people. That's big time, man. Much love to you. Tyler says we need a Crunch Time golf episode. We are in the works. All right, in the future.
We're trying to figure something out.
Because I think we need that's one thing we always talk about on this channel. We have goals for content outside of just the show. And I think a perfect thing we could do if people only could spectate how we are on the golf course, like I think it'd be hilarious. We just need a videographer. So
that's like a crew. We need like 1 or 2 people to video. Like we need like an actual crew to video.
Yeah,
a little bit.
that
So we
would
gotta
be.
figure that out.
If any of you are in the area,
editor.
videographers, hit us up. You know,
Yeah.
We do need. I think it'd be freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
To be seeing watching me play. Jesus, we even put Klotz out.
I think we do have to let Jeff, and this isn't bad to you, Jeff. I just think it's like we have to let you get a little better because we cannot do a video.
Wow.
No, this is not bad. I just don't. No. We just can't do a video if you hit like 20 times in one hole.
There's so many YouTube accounts and TikTokers and shit that do golf videos that are mid as hell or they're just starting off. So
I'm just being honest, dude.
I gotta play in the PGA to get recorded.
I watch golf to Jeff 3 times now. He's gotten better every single time, and that's how it goes when you start off. So it will be comedy too. Some people will laugh at Jeff starting off, but they'll be able to see his growth.
All I'm
just
saying
get him out there.
is let him develop a little bit more, and then boom, we're good.
What am I, Bronny James? I mean, look at Tyler. Jeff has upside, man.
He does have upside. That's why just let him develop for a couple more weeks. Let's get another month under your belt, and then let's go.
Fair. A month is
We
fine.
can't just be like Jeff. No, we can't just be like right now though, Jeff. Like, hey, let's get you out there hitting 400 times in a 9-hole round. No, like let's get it to where you feel comfortable and your upside. You get a little higher to your ceiling, and then it's like, all right, now we can actually have a good match here. Because if we did a video where it was the me and Stick versus you two, we the video's over in 20 minutes. It's not a video.
I mean, it came down to the last hole, and that was Jeff's
but that was because me
golfing.
and Stick. That was because me and Stick on the fourth hole when we were up 4. Stick looked at me and said, "We need to lay off them a little bit. Like let's stop.
Lay off me." All right.
No, he said lay off the boys. The boys were struggling. You guys know you guys were struggling. So I mean,
he's getting a little. See, that's what golf does to some people. You get your chest high. That's kind of Booner now. It's like declaring who's worth being on camera. Like
I mean, this is what it's like to be honest with the boys and be respectful.
Welcome to the golf world, guys.
You know what? No, Jeff, you're the best golfer ever. Like, yeah, let's go. I'll never tell you the truth again. I'm gonna always lie to you going forward.
Oh, don't do that, boo.
Yeah, now he's going the opposite way. Don't do that.
I'm gonna pump you up, dude. Here we go.
Yeah, I do.
Your golf game's great, dude. You're the next Tiger Woods.
He's getting better, Boone. Be nice.
Yeah, he is.
All right, See, chat's got my back. You know, I appreciate that. You know, I try to hype me up.
The chat would love it. They would love to watch Jeff struggle. It would be funny.
Yeah, I'm not good, but I think it'd be kind of funny. You know, I'm not like the worst, Boone.
Next
Come on,
question.
Next
question.
They'll have that video.
This turned into a Booner hate segment when I was trying to be nice. Next question. I don't even care about the golf stuff anymore.
Hal says we need a Crunch Time members only golf outing. Let's do it. I am so down. We'll make something happen with people. That guy up north, Mailbag, who ends the season with more receptions, Khalif or DPJ?
Khalif Raymond.
I'd probably say Khalif too.
Yeah, I'll go Khalif. Chemistry's there. You know what? I think that's fair. I think it's Khalif. I agree with that. Let's see. Jeff says, Mailbag, who is going to compete for best special teams in the NFC, AFC new kickoff role makes things interesting. I think the Lions will be up there, given if Jake Bates is any good. I think Jack Fox is already one of the best punters in the league, if not the best. So I think they'll be up there, certainly, in the NFC.
I was going to say the Packers probably. I mean, they have a good kick returner.
Keyshawn Nixon's dog.
Yeah, he's good. And the Lions got Germ. They got some good special teams. Vaki. I think they'll be up there in special teams this year. Maybe in the NFL in general, to be honest. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. But, yeah, I want to say before we end the show here, everyone, have a great 4th of July. Have fun out there, whether you're golfing, whether you're going out on the water, doing whatever with your family. Enjoy it. We're very blessed to be in this country, number one. And we're very blessed to be doing this for all of you. So please subscribe. We just hit 8,000. It's big time. We're trying to get to 10,000 for the season. So continue to support.
You guys a ton.
Yeah, we support. We love the support. We appreciate it. Until Friday, we'll be back. So
Happy
until then,
4th. Love you guys.
make sure you're there. Well, we'll catch you guys. See ya.